Ma'am, if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony in the matter pending before the court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. And just, I had a hard time hearing you, and if I'm having a hard time, some of our jurors might as well. So if you could just speak loudly into that microphone.
Okay.
Can you state your name and spell it for our court reporter, please?
Tiffany Schroeder, Tiffany, last name Schroeder.
Ms. Schroeder, back in January of 2001, were you living in Athens?
Yes,
And what were you doing in Athens at the time?
I was a student.
Where in Athens did you live?
I lived in Deer Park,
Remember the address?
415.
I'm going to show you, this has already been put into evidence as State's Exhibit 37. Do you recognize that as kind of an overhead view of the Deer Park subdivision?
Yes.
And can you point out, so the screen that's down there to your right, you can actually touch it and make a circle. And I'm going to ask you to put a circle over what house was 415 Deer Park Drive. Okay, so is that where you were living in January of 2001?
Yes.
Do you recall on January the 19th of 2001 there being an incident to include a fire or an arson and a murder in the neighborhood?
Yes.
And the day of that incident, do you recall talking to law enforcement about part of your day?
Yes.
What, if anything, do you remember about the early morning hours of January the 19th, 2001?
I was leaving for class in the morning between 8:30, and saw a young gentleman walking down our street right near our driveway.
When you say walking down our street, which direction was he coming from? And again, I think you could just kind of draw a line on the screen. So that'd be heading down towards the stop sign here. Is that, am I getting that right?
Yes.
What were you doing at the time that you encountered this individual?
Walking to my car, putting my stuff in the car to leave.
Okay. And as you were leaving the driveway, did you describe the encounter that you had with this individual?
Yep. I was just walking towards my car, opening the door, and he was walking in my direction towards my driveway. Saw each other. I continued to get into my car and then proceeded to wait for him to pass my driveway so that I could back out.
Okay. About how long did this encounter last?
Probably 20 to 30 seconds.
Can you describe, if you can recall here today, can you describe in general what this individual looked like?
Yes. Younger African-American man wearing jeans, either a red or orange hoodie, medium complexion, clean.
Do you remember anything else about his description here today?
His hair was of shorter to medium length.
Okay. About how long did you have a chance to view him? Did I ask that already? I'm sorry.
You asked about the encounter, but in terms of viewing him, it was probably close to 20 seconds.
At the time, was there anything unusual about that encounter?
I would just say the time of day to see somebody walking through the neighborhood, considering the earlier hours and the weather. Don't usually see people walking at that time when I'm leaving for class.
Were you aware of individuals using Deer Park as a cut through to the Walmart?
Yes.
Was it after you learned of the arson and murder at 160 Fawn Drive that you had an occasion to speak with officers about that individual who you encountered?
Yes, it was later that day, towards the evening.
And at some point later, did you agree to meet with a forensic sketch artist and provide a description of the individual that you had encountered to that person.
Yes.
And let's see, what number are we on?
99.
If I can approach the witness, Your Honor.
May.
Schroeder, I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 100. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is State's 100?
That is the sketch that I did with the forensic artist.
And, I moved to tender State's 100, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, ma'am.
It is admitted.
If I can publish that to the jury.
May.
And, Your Honor, would it be possible to clear the screen? Ms. Schroeder, again, State's 100. Is this the sketch that you, I guess, describe, or the sketch that was rendered based on your description to the sketch artist?
Yes.
And at the time, did you believe that that sketch represented the individual that you had encountered on your driveway at 415 Deer Parkway to the best of your ability?
Yes.
And as you sit here today, do you have any thoughts about how accurate that description would have been
It would be just as accurate.
today?
Yes.
Ms. Schroeder, those are all the questions that I have, ma'am. Mr. Crews may have some questions. Thank you.
Cross-examination.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Ms. Schroeder.
Afternoon.
My name is Ahmad Crews. I represent Mr. Edric Faust. Is it okay if I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes.
Before testifying today, did you meet with the state?
I met with the DA assistant over the phone in regards to being here.
Did you hear your audio recording from 20 years ago?
No.
So as you sit here today, you're not sure if that sketch is accurate, or are you sure, regardless?
I'm sure that that is the sketch that I did
Okay.
at the station. Yes.
Okay. And are you sure that that sketch matches the description that you gave law enforcement?
Yes.
Court's indulgence. Do you deny today telling law enforcement that the individual you saw walking was nondescript? Do you deny that statement?
I don't deny that statement in the context that the person I saw seemed average looking.
And when you say average looking, what do you mean by that?
I mean, no specific physical features that stood out wildly, like colored hair or unusual clothing or anything like that.
Sure. So nondescript didn't mean his physical features. Nondescript meant no colored hair, no wild clothing, things of that nature.
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about that, okay?
Sure.
And may I approach?
Sure. Okay. Okay.
Based on that photo, can you tell the jury how you describe that individual's facial hair?
How I described the facial hair?
Correct. And you can just go off the photo. If that photo is correct, how would you describe the facial hair? Is it a full beard? Is it
Little to none.
okay? Little to none. How would you describe that individual's nose?
I guess wide.
How would you describe that individual's eyes?
Dark eyes, wider set.
How would you describe that individual's lips?
Full.
And that individual's face. How would you describe the facial shape?
The facial shape, I would say squared oval.
All right, I just want to make sure I have this correct. So the description that we have: wider set eyes, dark eyes, wide nose, full lipped, square oval facial shape. Forehead. How did you describe the forehead?
Average size and width.
The shape of his eyes. How would you describe the shape of his eyes?
Almond.
And do you see this cheekbone structure on that the individual in the sketch?
Yes.
Okay. How would you describe the cheekbone structure?
I would describe it
All right, Shannon, let the record reflect that I am going to start this video at minute mark 12 minutes and 5 seconds.
I object to something being played that hasn't been tendered into evidence.
I mean, I agree with that.
Oh, please forgive me, Your Honor.
Okay.
Please forgive me. Ms. Riker, have you had opportunity to hear your interview?
The interview that day,
Correct.
I have not heard it, nor did I know it was a recorded interview.
Sure, that's fair. That is fair. You would recognize the interview if you heard it, though, right? You would recognize your voice, your name, where you stayed.
Maybe.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to play the recording for the witness outside the presence of the jury, if I may. For foundation purposes, Your Honor.
All right, can I see counsel at the bench, please?
You don't remember exactly what you said in the interview, is that correct?
To some degree, I remember.
Okay.
What I remember is being asked as I came home and the GBI was canvassing the neighborhood.
Okay.
And they asked me questions in my car.
Sure, that's fair. Do you remember everything that you stated in that interview?
For the most part, yes.
You do? Mm-hmm. Okay. Your statements were that he had wider set eyes, dark eyes, wide nose, full lips, squared oval facial.
I object, Your Honor. That's a mischaracterization of what her testimony just was.
I'm going to sustain that objection. I will allow you to rephrase your question.
Sure.
I think that's correct.
Sure.
But you may rephrase.
Sure. Is it fair to say that you stated that the individual had wide set eyes?
I don't think I was asked those specific questions at that time.
Okay. So on January 19th, that is not the description you gave?
Not to that level of detail, no.
Okay. I'd like to go through the items we discussed today. If you think that wasn't something you said on the 19th, just let me know, okay? Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. We've agreed that wider set eyes, you didn't give that level of detail on the 19th. Do we agree there?
I don't remember which of those details they may have asked me about at that time or not.
Sure. Would hearing your recording refresh your recollection?
I don't know.
Okay. Would hearing it let you know if you would know if it would refresh your recollection?
I'm not sure.
Okay. If I play it for you, will it refresh your recollection?
Possibly.
Your Honor, I would ask to refresh this witness's recollection outside the presence of the jury.
All right, any objection for the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have you go into the jury room. Don't discuss the case. We'll be with you shortly. Y'all may be seated. Go ahead, Mr. Crews.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I want to make sure I address you appropriately. Is Ms. your last name?
Schroeder.
Ms. Schroeder. Yes, ma'am. And for purposes of the record, this is a CD that contains multiple interviews provided in the state's discovery. Ms. Schroeder's timestamp on this CD is 12 minutes and 5 seconds. Until 15 minutes and 38 seconds. Ms. Schroeder, if you would, please.
Again, Mr. Crews, if you would. Yeah, Mr. Crews, let me ask you this question. Are you able to play it on your computer for the witness?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you can bring your computer over to the witness table and play it that way. It's not anything that's going to be transcribed. This is for witness recollection, so you can do that.
All right, Ms. Wright, I'm going to play this for you.
Somebody robbed the place at 5 o'clock. Because they never started till 6.
Hey, can you hear that?
It's very muffly from here. Yeah, it's not very clear.
Can we just have the laptop closer to the witness, I think, is what the court was suggesting. Well,
I think, Mr. Crews, you can play it for the witness at the witness stand. It doesn't need to be transcribed, and it's to refresh her recollection, so you can play it for her at the witness stand. Thank you.
Times on there, just I said it in there. What was your last name?
Riker, R-I-K-E-R.
Okay, your first name?
Tiffany.
A-1. Yeah, A-1. Okay. Your rest of those? Good, good.
415.
Okay. And the home phone number?
549. 4280.
You were home this morning?
I left at 8:15 to go to class.
Okay. somebody outside or just walking through. Can you just kind of explain what you saw to me?
Yeah, I was walking to my car and I saw African American gentleman walking down my road towards my house. In fact, he actually had to stop walking so that I could pull out of my driveway.
Okay, now you live right here. Was he on the road?
Oh, he was coming down this way,
Okay.
like from the entrance to the neighborhood.
Okay.
Towards this way.
So he was down that far end road down there.
So he's technically he was walking down Deer Park Drive.
Okay.
Actually. And I don't know. He was just kind of. He wasn't real. He's kind of nondescript. He wasn't tall. Wasn't short. Wasn't a large guy or small guy. The only thing I remember he was wearing like an orange colored shirt, orange or red, something bright.
Do you know if he was wearing a hat or anything?
No, he wasn't wearing a hat.
Now, do you remember what kind of pants he was wearing by any chance?
I don't remember what color. I believe it's like kind of baggy, not like fitted. I want to say jeans, but I could be wrong.
Okay. That's fine.
They definitely were. I don't think they were a dark color. They were either like a khaki or denim type.
Lighter color, not so
Yeah.
dark. Okay. Is there any reason in particular that you wouldn't go? You see folks walking a good bit of time. Is there any reason that it stuck out this morning, or is it just because we're asking, or is there?
It kind of stuck out because I was surprised that somebody would be kind of just strolling through that early in the morning. I mean, I've seen people walking through the neighborhood before,
Right.
but not at that particular time of day.
Many folks walk or jog or anything out here, or is it usually pretty
Yeah, the students that live here usually
in the morning, or is it usually in the evening?
more so in the evening. I've seen people in the morning, but today was kind of weird because it was kind of rainy, so
That's nasty.
it wouldn't have been a day for them to do that, really. In my mind, I assumed that maybe he was cutting through to go to Walmart. That's what
That's pretty normal.
yeah, I mean, I didn't know
Okay.
what he was doing, but I was like, oh, well, maybe he's just cutting through.
He might have been, we don't know.
Right.
Was anybody else home this morning, or would have been here, a roommate, or anybody else?
When I left, you were here. I was here until 9 a.m. When I was doctor's appointment, I was back at 11 a.m.
Did you see anything coming in or out, or?
No, sir. I didn't see anything unusual. I was here until 2:30.
What's your last name?
Yes.
Did that refresh your recollection of your statements from January 19, 2001?
Yes.
All right, you can bring the jury back in.
Conversation.
So, Ms. Riker, you've had opportunity to hear your statement. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that statement refreshed your recollection. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is it true on January 19, 2001, you did not hear yourself in that statement give a physical, facial description of the individual that you saw walking? Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Now, you mentioned that you gave a sketch to a sketch artist, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned when you were speaking with the state that you saw this individual for about 20 seconds. Is that right?
Yes, 20 to 30 seconds, yes.
Okay, you were on your way to class. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm assuming it's maybe more than 10 people in your class. You probably saw more than 10 people that day.
No.
No? Okay. But you met with a sketch artist on Friday, January 26th. Would you agree with that statement?
I don't know if it was that date specifically.
Sure. Would seeing the sketch artist's notes refresh your recollection?
Possibly.
And I still have free reign, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm seeing the second paragraph, but I don't see my name there.
So that doesn't refresh your recollection?
No.
But you do recall on some date meeting with a sketch artist?
Yes.
Okay, you don't know at this time what date that is.
It was around that time. I don't remember the specific date.
That is fair. Now let's talk about what you did discuss on the 19th, if that's okay. In your statement on January 19th, you stated that you saw an African-American male walking down the street. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. He was walking in the direction from the entrance towards your home.
Correct.
While walking, the male actually stopped so you could pull your car out the driveway.
He had to stop walking one way or the other because he saw that I was backing out.
Just to make sure we're clear on that we're on the same page. While walking, the gentleman had to stop so you could pull out of the driveway.
Yes, but I don't remember whether he stopped and then I stopped so that he could keep walking or if he just stopped.
Your Honor, I would move to introduce Defense Exhibit 20 into evidence, minute mark 1309 through minute mark 1313.
I object on, this is not an inconsistent statement, Your Honor.
Well,
I have case law for the Honorable Court if you would like it.
well, at this point, first I'd like counsel to explain what he is asking to tender, and then we'll go from there.
I am asking to tender Ms. Schroeder's January 19th, 2001 interview, recorded interview, minute mark 1319 and 1313 for impeachment purposes. Ms. Schroeder.
All right. Okay, hang on just a moment. Based on that request, Mr. Bolden, do you have an objection?
I do object.
Okay.
Because I do not believe that Ms. Schroeder has testified to anything inconsistent with what her statement was that the court just heard. So.
All right. Mr. Crews, do you care to respond to that response?
do.
Go ahead.
My question is an exact quote. I asked while walking, and I'll say the quote part. Did the male, and this is the quote part, stop walking so that she could pull out of her driveway? If the Honorable Court would allow me to play the audio, I do not want to put evidence on the record. That is not a yes or no. I didn't receive a yes or no to that. I received the answer that was different from the question I asked. To be respectful to the witness, what I understand the appropriate procedure, if it differs from what's in the evidence, at that time I would just move to tender the evidence.
Okay, I agree with the state on their recognition of what the law requires to admit evidence that the proponent believes is an inconsistent statement, but I will allow you, of course, to continue cross-examining this witness.
Yes, ma'am, but not to impeach, Your Honor?
I
just want to make sure I'm clear.
I'm sustaining the objection
Understood.
that Mr. Bolden made to the introduction of that particular exhibit.
Understood. So I just want, and you could, if possible, you could just give me a yes or no. in your January 19th statement, did you tell law enforcement that the male had to stop walking so you could pull, and I'll say the quote, so that I could pull out of my driveway?
Yes, I said he had to stop. Yes, I did say that.
You don't recall that individual wearing a hat, do you?
I do not recall a hat, no.
So it's fair to say that his face was fully visible?
Yes,
Okay. And when he stopped for your vehicle, he made no effort not to be seen. Is that correct?
he made no effort not to be seen.
He did not change directions when he saw you?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And he was walking at a regular pace. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's fair.
He was walking on the roadway, which was open and visible?
Yes,
And you would agree, and I just want to make sure we're clear. Now, this individual was wearing a bright shirt. Is that right?
yes, either orange or red, yes.
But it was a shirt. Is that correct?
Hoodie, shirt, sweatshirt.
We have to be specific. Was it a hoodie or a shirt, or you don't know?
If you're asking me, I would say it was a hoodie.
Your Honor, I would move to introduce Defense Exhibit 20, minute mark 1355 through 1402.
On what grounds, Mr. Crews?
Prior inconsistent statement.
All right, Mr. Bolden, or Mr. Almanchili, any objection?
Again, Your Honor, I don't know that there's been anything inconsistent today. She said
If you'll speak into that microphone, Mr. Bolden. Speak into you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Your Honor. I don't know that the proper foundation has been laid once again, so I would object.
I'm going to sustain that objection. The proper foundation needs to be laid.
Judge, I have a motion outside the presence of the jury.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll go into the jury room, and please don't talk about the case. Thank you. Sir, you all may be seated. Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I am again moving for a mistrial. We can't impeach witnesses. We can't argue consent. The state can present things that we can't present. We can't rebut allegations in their indictment. We are requesting a mistrial. This is not fair. This trial has been worse than practicing in communist Russia. He doesn't stand a chance in this courtroom, Your Honor. The witness made a prior statement. We played the recording for the court. The witness made a prior statement. He was wearing like an orange-colored shirt, orange or red, something bright. That is a quote. We played the recording. The Honorable Court was able to hear that recording. Her testimony here today was that he was wearing a hoodie. This is important because the state wants to make all the people that were seen in the neighborhood Mr. False. The person that they brought the first witness in for said, oh, he had a jacket. So, of course, they want her to say, oh, he had on a hoodie. It's an inconsistent statement. We are handcuffed, Your Honor. We are asking for a mistrial in this case.
Thank you. Mr. Bolden, do you care to respond before I make a response?
Your Honor, Mr. Crews has failed to make the proper foundation for a prior inconsistent statement. He has not asked the witness a question that the witness then denied. And so it's just not a proper foundation. So that's the basis of the state's objection. As to his motion, I don't necessarily think I have to make a response.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bolden. So, Mr. Crews, the first thing I want to say, and we are outside the presence of the jury, is that it is unfortunate that your constant comments about the unfairness of this trial it's very unfortunate. You know, it is outside the presence of the jury, but it is not appropriate to continually just argue to the court that things are unfair and that somehow the defense is handcuffed because of the court's rulings. As I stated before, the court endeavors in every respect to make rulings based on law. So that's the first thing. And, you know, having a slight tantrum every time you get a ruling that you don't agree with is really not appropriate. And I'm going to ask you to consider that moving forward. The second thing is the state is correct, Mr. Crews, in terms of the procedure. to request to admit an inconsistent statement, and you have not done it properly. I will say, for the record, in this particular moment, that your question was not the appropriate question to ask to recognize an inconsistent statement. It was kind of a trick question of sorts. You asked her to describe that particular piece of clothing, and her response was, I would say it was a hoodie, as if there was sort of the question allowed this witness, at least in my impression, to sort of pick, was it sort of a shirt or was it a hoodie? And the testimony, as I heard it, was that she elected to sort of describe it as a hoodie. If you would like to make an argument that that in and of itself is what the law says is an inconsistent statement under the evidence code, then I will hear it. But if not, I'm going to sustain the objection and ask you to move on, sir. You may be heard, yes. And then I'll talk about the mistrial in just a moment, but go ahead.
If the honorable court has the statute, just save me a little time. I'm pulling the statute now, if that's okay. But if you have it readily available.
Well, I mean, Mr. Crews, I'm not going to advise you on the law. And I think you need to be here prepared to argue it.
No, I just said if you had a copy of the statute, I was just trying to save on the course of time, but I'll pull it up there. This is OCGA. The statute is OCGA 24-6-613. Prior statement of witness is the title of that section. Under subsection A, the law provides, in examining a witness concerning a prior statement made by the witness, whether written or not, the statement need not be shown nor its contents disclosed to the witness at the time. Provided, however, upon request, the same shall be shown or disclosed to opposing counsel. Your Honor, in this case, I went above and beyond. I actually chose to refresh her recollection as opposed to impeaching her when we were talking about her statement. She heard the entire statement. I told opposing counsel, this is what I have. They heard the entire statement. Subsection B provides, except as provided in Code Section 24-806, extrinsic evidence of a prior inconsistent statement by a witness shall not be admissible unless, first, the witness is first afforded an opportunity to explain or deny the prior inconsistent statement, which we did. I said, Your Honor, this is a quote. I read the statement as a quote. She said it was a hoodie. I confronted her with the statement, gave her opportunity. She still chose to say this was a hoodie. Second, and the opposite party is afforded an opportunity to interrogate the witness on the prior inconsistent statement. The state will have opportunity to examine her on the prior inconsistent statement.
Mr. Crews, what is the statement you're saying is inconsistent with this witness's testimony?
Sure.
I think that's part of what the state was endeavoring to argue. So what is it?
So the written question that I asked, the individual that she saw walking, did she state he was wearing like an orange-colored shirt? She said that he was wearing a hoodie.
Well, that wasn't the question you asked, Mr. Crews. The question you asked gave her an option to sort of describe what she meant. And you said something to the effect of, was it like a hoodie or a shirt? And she opined it was like, I'll say, a hoodie. I'm not sure that's an inconsistent statement, but I will let you question this witness again with specific questions if you would like to elicit the proper information for the court. I will let you question her right now out of the presence of the jury, and we can go from there.
Sure. In your prior statement in law enforcement, did you state he was wearing like an orange colored shirt, orange or red, something bright?
Yes.
We can bring the jury back in. That's it.
All right. And Mr. Crews, I want to comment on your motion for mistrial.
Sure.
I'm going to deny that motion. The granting of a mistrial by the court is a very, of course, as you are well aware, extreme option. And it is done in very limited circumstances where the matters that have been presented in court are of such a prejudicial matter, such a prejudicial level that the defendant cannot receive a fair trial. And with regard to your motion, you have not sufficiently shown this court that that exists. And so I'm going to deny your motion. All right. Can you bring the jury in, please? Thank you. You all may be seated. You may continue, Mr. Crews.
Thank you, Your Honor. On January 19, 2001, you told law enforcement in your statement he was wearing like an orange-colored shirt, orange or red, something bright. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I said. But I describe shirt as all-encompassing. I haven't had a chance to say that, but had the officer asked me, was it a T-shirt or a sweatshirt, I probably would have been more specific. But to me, a shirt, is a hoodie, sweatshirt, any of the above.
And that's your memory 25 years later today?
Yeah.
You stated that his pants were baggy fitted, lighter color khaki or denim jeans. Is that correct?
That is what I said in the recording, yes.
And this individual had about an inch of hair on his head.
To my best of recollection, that is how I described it, yes.
When you were asked by law enforcement what this individual looked like, your response was, I don't know. He was just kind of, he's kind of nondescript. Is that correct?
That is what the recording said, yes.
You stated that, let me put it this way. Would you agree that you did not tell law enforcement whether or not he had facial hair?
I was not asked that question.
You would agree that you did not tell law enforcement the shape of his eyes?
I was not asked that question.
You would agree that you don't remember telling law enforcement the distance between his eyes?
I was not asked that question.
You would agree that you do not remember his lip or nose shape?
I was not asked that question on January 19th, no.
Okay. And you would agree that you did not tell law enforcement his facial cheekbone structure?
I don't believe I was asked those details on January 19th.
Yes, ma'am. People walking through Deer Park to go to Walmart was pretty normal. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you told law enforcement the person that you saw, you assumed he was walking, going to Walmart. Is that correct?
That was the thought I had, yes.
Is it fair to say that the gentleman may have been going to Walmart?
Sure.
Your Honor, I would still move to tender Defense Exhibit 20 into evidence as a prior inconsistent statement.
All right. I'm going to, is there any further discussion about that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm going to I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm not going to allow you to admit that particular exhibit.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything further, sir?
No, ma'am.
All right. Any redirect of this witness, Mr. Bolden?
Briefly. Ms. Schroeder, do you remember what the weather was like that day?
Yes,
What was it?
it was kind of foggy, misty, a lot like it was this morning.
Another thing, so you just mentioned on cross-examination about questions that you weren't asked on the 19th as it relates to specific facial characteristics.
Correct. Yep.
Were you asked those kind of questions when you met with the sketch artist?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Any further cross-examination, Mr. Crews?
Question don't.
Are you looking for this? Mm-hmm.
This is an accurate depiction of the person that you saw.
That is an accurate depiction of how I described the person I saw to the sketch artist.
So this is accurate.
To my knowledge, yes.
Anything further, Mr. Bolden, of this witness?
Yeah, Your Honor.
May she be excused.
I'd ask that she be excused.
Mr. Crews, any objection?
Did you receive a subpoena from our office?
Yes.
I'd ask that she be held on that subpoena, Your Honor. Just on call, on call.
All right. You are still under subpoena from the defense. You are free to go.
Okay.